Right, guys, welcome to another episode, which I'd love to say was number two. And the reason I love to say that is because it should have been number two. And the reason it should have been number two was because we had a great conversation with our guests, and just we had some in-depth questions, and we had some, businessy based questions and just life questions in general. But as you might have guessed, that he wasn't there, and that's because Zoom decided it was going to mess up our interview, and also decided it was going to mess up our opportunity. I'm not sure why, but I figured it out, and it will definitely be up this time. So you guys will definitely be seeing this right now. Don't worry. But our guest today, he's the marketing director for Simply Social Scotland, which has won Scottish Marketing Agency of the Year, Scottish prestigious awards, plus is also based in my old stomping ground, Dunfermline. A Scottish quote, pretty much you're based there. And he is a man with arguably the best beard on LinkedIn, arguably YouTube, but definitely LinkedIn. It's Dale Meikle, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thank you for coming on again. Again, like I'm not sure what happened with the whole Zoom thing and it mixed up our interview, but I appreciate giving me your time again.
No problem at all, buddy.
So what's what made I think like to get arguably into like the in-depth questions, what made you want to get into business? Because you're only quite young, so it's quite, to want to aim to be in that, it's quite adventurous, if you want to say.
Of course, yeah. Well, I'm 27, obviously live in Dunfermline, and I guess what makes me want to get into business, it's just a passion for what I do. So obviously I live and breathe, marketing, sales and stuff like that. And I like sort of taking people by the hand and getting them results, basically. So I think during sort of COVID, the start of COVID anyway, when the lockdown started, I just seen an opportunity there to really kind of mirror what I see in businesses to help them sort of scale and make more revenue and kind of stay afloat during the pandemic as well. So when I launched the business, Simply Social Scotland anyway, when I launched that, it wasn't really supposed to be as big as what it is now. It was just sort of like a freelance idea that I had that basically took off on the back of COVID, which was lucky. And yeah, so basically that's kind of where what basically inspired me to set it up, was just seeing a little gap in the market. A lot of people where I'm from as well, they don't make the most out of their marketing for their business. So just an opportunity and kind of grabbed it there, and I tried to help people along, obviously during COVID.
Yeah, I think like obviously people admire you for that, will admire you for that, for helping people rather than just like sitting back and knowing there was people were struggling with that. You actually like took the initiative to go out and help people. But I think, to go back just a little bit with, yourself and, your background before we talk about Simply Social Scotland. I think like, do you have any sort of like qualifications in business, or is it like kind of like self-taught, like the kind of like book lifestyle, or is it more education wise?
Of course, well, I left school in fifth year, so literally within 2 months into staying on at school, I left. Just down to family reasons, and basically decided to go into college. I feel like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just basically got forced into doing something. So my family basically made me go to college. Started studying engineering. Absolutely hated that. Stuck at that for about 2-3 months, and then decided, nah, I'm better off making some money. So started basically in entry-level sales jobs on the phones and stuff like that, and kind of became quite good at it, to be honest. I really enjoyed the sales kind of element of working when I was younger, and the opportunity to make more money and hit targets and stuff like that. But nah, like no qualifications as such in business. I mean, I've done things the opposite way. I mean, I've got no experience in business. I've got no experience managing other companies and stuff like that, and no sort of qualified education to date. But like I say, I've done it the wrong way around. So right now I'm studying at uni, but I'm only doing that because to kind of sharpen up some tools that I've got just now. I don't need it as such, but it's kind of the practice what you preach kind of thing. And if I've got uni graduates and stuff coming to work for me, I kind of want to be able to have that level of conversation with them, and yeah, just basically learn a bit more about self-development. And so, but to answer your question, nah, mate, I've went completely wrong way. So I've set up the business, I've done the work experience, I've done all that, and then I've done the educational side last.
But you say, to be honest with you, you say the wrong way, but a lot of people would probably disagree with you there and say it's maybe the right way, because you, as you obviously you'll know yourself, sometimes you literally have to just, because it would have been quite a whim to be like, I'm just going to start my own business and, a lot of people say you're actually better just jumping in and, you know, head first, which you obviously did. But I want to like, you know, engineering, that's obviously that would have been a really good career, you know what I mean? So when you people, you know, seen you wanted to become, obviously they would have seen you wanted to become an engineer just due to you doing engineering. But after that, what was like the response when you kind of like left college and were like, I want to go and do, you know, I want to go and have my own business. I want to go and like work for myself and I want to go and earn my own money. What was the response? Not necessarily from your family, just from people in general when you were like that.
Yeah, I think they're quite happy. I mean, to start with, when I left college, I didn't go straight into starting my own business. I only set up my own business last year. When I left college, I'm talking just shy of 10 years ago. But I mean, they were happy as long as I was working and as long as I was making more money in my family. And like I say, the jobs that I was going into wasn't anything spectacular. It was just sales jobs. I mean, I'd worked for call centres. I ended up working in the financial sector in the bank, and then kind of insurance and stuff like that. And then that was all sales. But I would say that when I was doing all that, I kind of found my passion for the marketing side because I was that sales guy sitting there thinking, right, I could be using better materials here, or they should be doing a better campaign to help me sell this product or something like that. And always used to see the marketing team across the office and be like, I would love to sit there, and always had these ideas that I would give to my manager, and no one would ever, you know, act upon them or anything like that. And yeah, I think it's good because obviously I got the experience of the sales side of things, which is obviously great when you're starting your own business. And then obviously my trade is marketing. So, you know, after I'd left the sales roles, I then started getting entry-level marketing jobs, sharpening up my skills there. And then I've been working in marketing for, you know, over 7 years. Basically, and then I've went from print sort of marketing all the way up to digital. So there's loads of different things there that I've learned on the journey that now I can look back and put all them things into one pot. And that's what's helped me sort of set up Simply Social Scotland, because we've got the sales aspect, which I know what I'm talking about, and then I've obviously got the marketing sense as well, which I've put a lot of effort into, which is kind of comes down to being self-taught as well. So I mean, I talk about self-development, that the trends always change. So the different roles that I've had in marketing, like technology, hospitality, leisure, again, insurance, stuff like that, print media, things like that. These are all things that are different in their own way, and it's allowed me to sort of bring on different kinds of clients at Simply Social Scotland, because every business is different, which is fantastic. So
yeah. I think like one thing people will be interested in is what sales jobs you had. So what in a what type of sales jobs were they in a specific sense? Because obviously sales can mean literally anything. But you said you worked at a bank. So what did you have to like work up to the bank job, or did you join it, or what was the process? And
yeah, just basically, so I started off right at the very start. My first sales job was at a company in Kirkcaldy. It was MGT, which was a temporary job, and it was literally working on behalf of BT. And it was selling broadband at that time. And all we were doing was just a generate number selector, and I was just sitting at the other end of the phone, and it was just phoning constantly, you know, people after people, dialing after dialing, and obviously we had sales targets we had to hit. And then I'd obviously went to work for the bank again. That was in a call centre environment. I worked for the Dunfermline Building Society before I got taken over as well, and then I went to work for Lloyd's after that. So it was kind of like customer service, but there was sales involved as well. It was a better paying job, things like that. And yeah, it's transitioned itself from, to that kind of level. I've worked in sort of face-to-face sales as well, where I've been sort of scheduling all appointments and having to go out and see customers. I worked for C.R. Smith for a little while, and that's kind of what was in there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, every sales job that I've had has been different, but every role has had the same. I mean, it's been a people's person basically, and I think like working in sales, you kind of sharpen up your transparency. So you've got to be a good people's person. You've got to be able to hold a conversation. You've got to be able to listen. And I think being chucked into that when I was younger, it's kind of set me up going forward, because I'm not scared to, if I needed to pick up the phone and phone a stranger or go and meet someone for the first time or anything like that. Like, these are all sort of experiences and skills that I've learned, since I was a young boy, basically. So
Yeah. With because I know a little bit about, because C.R. Smith, that's Windows, isn't it? If I'm correct in saying that. I actually know people who know me will know that I worked for Weatherseal for a little bit, for maybe, I think it was a couple of weeks, but that was just due to starting off because my other job was coming, and then I worked for Pennycook. So I kind of have the base, and I have to say, I was there for I think it was 6 months before I got another job, a better paying job, let's just say, well, arguably better paying job. But I think that a lot of people don't know that that's commission based. So when it comes to like having a drive, knowing that if you don't put 110% in, you're not going to get anything. Like, because you can't just turn up and be like, pretty much skive. You need to actually put 110% in effectively. So would you say
Yeah.
that job would be actually a big factor in helping you today? Because if you don't work hard, your team's not going to work hard, and if your team isn't going to work hard, then that affects
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I suppose in a way, absolutely. I mean, when I took that job, again, I was still a young boy. I only took it because it was a job that was paying money. And yeah, of course, if I didn't work extra hard, I would get extra money. So that was kind of how it worked. But I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, of course, these skills get set into you, and you know that you have to deliver to make sure that you're getting paid. I mean, that is a drive in itself. But I think with me, even at that point when I was doing sales, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I was still sitting there. All I knew was I wanted to make some money, so I could go out at the weekend with my pals when I was younger. But that's generally all I cared about. And then obviously, when I'm saying to you, like, I did start to think about these marketing ideas, and then my brain started going as I got a bit more mature, and then started applying. Like, I got confident enough to apply for jobs that I actually wanted to work for. So I used to just take jobs based on the salary. And I think roughly when I was about 20, I applied for a job with the Scotsman in Edinburgh, and it was a more sort of sales and marketing role. And that's kind of where my journey started, if you like, because that's when I started, speaking to businesses when I was working there, and then coming up with strategies and helping them with just like trying to sell products that I had as well. So it was a bit of everything, but I was actually starting to work with all these different businesses, and I started to understand their needs. And then that kind of made me more hungry because these guys were relying on us to deliver. And you get a kick out of that. So if you're, it's quite addictive. So if you're projecting something in marketing, for example, you're saying this is what we're proposing, this is what we think we're going to do, this is the results that you'll get. If that actually comes to life and it happens, that's a very, very addictive feeling where it's like, I said that was going to happen, and that's because of us. So I started getting that when I was younger, and then, like I say, the roles that I was in just grew and grew and grew. So it went from newspapers, then I went to technology, and et cetera, and then my role got bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's all about progression, and it's all about, when I was younger, like I say, when I had that drive and I kind of knew what I wanted to do, then my mind started becoming a bit of a sponge, and I was just soaking everything in. And even when I was speaking to like the higher bosses and things like that, I would just sit and listen to them. Do you know what I mean? And have conversations with them about other stuff that wasn't even to do with work, to find out how they got to where they were. It's quite funny, like any interview that I had, I can remember this, like genuinely, any interview that I had when I was going into a market role, there's always that question where they go, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I swear down, hand on heart, every single time I was like, I want your job. And then they would laugh. And I don't know, sometimes it rubbed off wrong, sometimes they'd be like, oh, who's this guy? But genuinely, that was my ambition. Like when I started, in my 20s at least, I knew that I wanted to be higher above than an entry-level job, and I knew that I could do it, but I had to try and get the experience and stuff first, because I didn't have that educational or degree background, if you like.
Yeah, and I think, like, again, I'm the exact same. I don't have the educational background, and it's definitely probably one of the biggest. Might take away money and all that, because money can come, money can go. You can earn money, whatever, but you still have to have that drive to, like, earn, to be different, because obviously there does come down to a thing of like having your own business isn't 9 to 5, as it's not 9 to 5. So what, obviously there's an aspect of your business as well where it's marketing, so you're approaching these big companies, and obviously you are quite a young guy. Like, in business, you're really young. Would you say that actually has affected you, not necessarily getting business, but with the way some of these businesses maybe look at you because you're such a young guy? They might, why would I go with him? He's so young.
Absolutely. I mean, you've not asked this question, but I would say one thing that we do is like the content that we put out is different to our competitors as an agency, right? So there's guys in Dunfermline, I'm not going to list them off, but there's guys that have been there for 20 years plus, and I know for a fact they're like, who's this guy? When we set up last year, like, who does this guy think he is? Because I used to come on, I used to sit and speak on camera, and I'd put that out as content. I'd talk about marketing, I'd talk about, if you're this business, this is what you should do. And I used to talk, but I'd always back that up. So anyone that came on board with me as a client, you could go and talk to them now without me telling them, like, without me having to speak to them. They would say, I'm just a transparent guy, and I'll literally speak my mind. And I think that comes back to your question, when businesses look at me and they go, oh, he's quite a young guy. It is true, but I'm not as professional as what some people might think that I should be as a business owner. So I'm literally just a down to earth guy that has a passion for what I talk about, and all I care about is getting people results. That is genuinely it. So sometimes it's not professional, but sometimes I'll go to a client and they could be quite posh or whatever like that. Like, I don't change. I just talk how I talk, and I'll tell them if I think something. And sometimes it just flows like that. And I think people kind of respect me more for that, because I'm not trying to be something that I'm not. Like, age should matter. There's like I say, there's businesses out there that compete with us that have been doing it for 20 years, but they don't do it as good. And age shouldn't come down to that, and experience shouldn't come down to that. It's about results that you get for businesses that pay you money. And it's about, doing everything we can and treating those businesses like they're my own businesses. And I think that's what it comes down to. But absolutely, I mean, we're still new. I mean, we've only been, trading for a year. But I look back at that year and I think, right, wow, that's, I'm bloody proud of what we've done. And we've been chucked in, and we're kind of punching above our weight a little bit. But that's what it's all about, and I get a kick out of that. And I know there's competitors out there, like I say, that are like, who's this guy, whatever. But that drives me more to try and take over these guys. And I'm not this nicey man that talks like, that networks and is like fake. So like, my ambition is to be the best in Scotland. And there's nobody getting in my way. No competitor is getting in my way. Like, I am overtaking those competitors within the next 5 years, and that is it.
That's the best way to be, though. That's the thing.
It's arrogant. It's arrogant, but it's not arrogance. It's confidence. I am confident that's where we'll be.
And you as you just said there, before we get into Simply Social, because you're such an interesting person, to be honest. It's hard to. I know people want to know about the business, but it's interesting asking yourself questions. You just said there that the biggest in Scotland. Does that mean you guys only do business in Scotland, or do you do business in like England and Ireland and, well, just anywhere in the world, really?
Of course, yeah. So we've actually got a customer just now in Texas. We've got loads of clients down in England. We've got a couple of clients in the Middle East. Not yet, but they are coming on board in the next couple of months. So to technically are a client. So no, although we've got Scotland in the name, we will service anyone in the world. But my ambitions as the business owner is to take us to the next level, and I want to set up an agency down in Manchester. I tried to do it last year, but because of COVID, it kind of fell through, and I had investors at the time that was helping with that, and everyone kind of pulled the plug at the right time because of the COVID was really, really bad in Manchester, sort of November time last year. And then I want to revisit that idea. So I want Simply Social England, and then I want Simply Social Ireland as well, sort of in the next 10 years. But no, I've got to start with my baby, which is obviously Scotland, and I do kind of just want to be the best in Scotland. We're already getting there. But the next ambition is to then move down to England and try, punch above our weight down there. And then the same in Ireland. I want to have I'm calling it the 3 pillars. I want the 3 pillars. I want one in Scotland, one in England, one in Ireland. Yeah,
it's always good to have like dreams again, because that's one of the questions I always ask people as well, is where do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years? The interview question that, as you said, everybody gets asked that. Everybody does. And obviously it's quite admirable for yourself again that you want to have places all over the world effectively. But where did Simply Social, well, Simply Social Scotland is obviously this one, but where did the name, we'll take away that the Scotland just for a second, where did Simply Social come from? Is it because you make it easier for people, or is it, where did that name originate from?
So when we started, when I started the business, it was more like a sole trader. So what I wanted to focus on was social media. So I wanted to, I still believe this, that my forte is Facebook and Instagram. So I think that sort of, even if you're business to business or business to customer, I think that a person's target audience is on social media. So when I set up the business, it was supposed to be simply, as in it's simple for us to do, and then it's social. So it's all about social. However, in the past year, we've changed. Like, we are now a bigger digital marketing agency. We don't just deal with social, like we deal with anything digital. So we're building websites, strategies, Google ads, the whole thing. Like, we're an agency now. But when I first started, that was supposed to be the catch, and we were targeting smaller businesses. So I was targeting guys that were maybe turning over 100k a year instead of $1 million or 2 million or something like that. It was aimed at the smaller SMEs, and that was basically the reason for the name. And then obviously Scotland was just the location.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will wonder as well. They'll be like, okay, so before we get into that a little bit more, I think a question people will be like, okay, so he did sales based, he did marketing based. He's clearly always been a driven type of guy. Like, he's always been, he's always known what you want. But is that necessarily the case, or did you have how like a funny way to put it is you used to see in the cartoons, they used to have the light switch thing. Did you have one of those moments you were like, okay, this is what I need to do now? Or have you always been like, I want to be, business and I want to be this type of thing?
Yeah. I've always been very headstrong and honestly believe that there's two types of people in the world. Okay, so there's types of people that are just born into the world and they just follow the regime and they're told what to do and they just soak everything in and it's the norm. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. They've got their mum and dad there, their families, and they just go to nursery, primary school, high school, go to university, do this, do that, and it's all just an automation, if you like. And that is the normal person, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But then you get the person that something's traumatic happens to them when they're younger, at a childhood age, right? And these people are kind of damaged, if you like. But these people's personalities are always a bit bolder, or they're protected at some point. And it was a really good thing that I'd seen the other day, and it was, I don't know if you know the guy, Marco Pierre White was a chef. He's a famous chef. And he talks about an analogy of it. So the best way to put it is like a glass. So someone that's broken, there's your glass, right? They're in the middle of that glass and they've got a shield around them, right? And there comes a time where they can see everything on the outside of the world, but they're protected by this shell. And they just go about soaking everything in. And then when the time's right, it's time to break out the glass, right? And then that's the time that you take the glass out and they've soaked everything up. And that's the damaged person. And these, like I say, these guys have always got a chip on their shoulder. I'm talking about myself, or they've always got some kind of drive and they're just a little bit different from the normal person. And I would say that's what I'm like. I had quite a traumatic, if you like, childhood. I didn't have a normal childhood. But I think I've always had that chip on my shoulder and I've always wanted to prove people wrong. I've always wanted to do well for myself. There's no one that's gave me this. All of it's been down to me. Never had handouts, nothing like that. Didn't have amazing advice with anything to do with business or anything like that. Everything I've built is for me. And that's kind of just come down to experiences that I've had in my life, and that's what I put it down to. Yeah,
and obviously everybody, I can definitely relate to you on that one with, having rough childhood, but I think like there is a lot of people out there that, you see how driven they are and they see, they work 16-hour days or, all this sort of stuff, 7 days a week, they're constantly working, and then either they're working at the gym and then work, and you have to say, and then usually because they feel they have a point to prove, like you said, they have a chip on their shoulder. And again, obviously you said yourself, you do as well, and I do, and I'm sure our listeners and people that view it, they will as well, because that's the type of like person that, this is kind of aimed towards, is to help people that are kind of like are driven and don't just want again, nothing wrong with it, but don't just want the normal, 9-to-5 lifestyle, the house and the white picket fence with a wee puppy and all that sort of stuff. They don't just want that. They kind of want something completely different, which again, everybody admires each of them because each is just as hard to do, but one necessarily it does take a certain type of person to do one versus the other, to be honest.
Yeah.
But let's get into a little bit of your business yourself, because it's been so nice hearing like all this sort of stuff, and I still have loads of questions, but I would like to talk about your business. I'm genuinely interested. So one thing I want to, come right out there and say is that a lot of people don't know that, but Simply Social Scotland actually has drones. Now that's obviously a new niche in anything, but where do you fly the drones yourself, or do you have like I don't know if this is silly to say, or do you have a pilot, maybe? Is that what you call them? Do they come in, or is it yourself, or is it a member of your team? Or
yeah, so it's myself that does it. So I decided to bring the drone in just to offer that something a little bit different to clients. And a lot of guys that we've got, estate agents and builders and things like that, that's what kind of pushed me to get into this space a little bit, just for content really. And yeah, it's myself that flies it. I'm fully certified. I had to do a course and stuff on that as well. And you're right, it's a drone pilot. So that's kind of what we do. We incorporate that into our marketing. We actually do surveys for companies and stuff as well. And let's face it, it's quite cool. It's really cool to fly. Something that I never thought I would get into, but I was just sitting one night and I was thinking, right, how can I do something that's a bit different compared to what my competitors do? And it was the drone footage. So it comes in handy with so many different things. Like, honestly, like you can promotion videos, like I say, surveys, even like the estate agents, I would say, is the best one. Like they're trying to sell a property, they phone us up, we go out, do a promotional video with the drone, highlight the house and stuff like that, and it worked a treat. So it's quite cool to offer that. There's not a lot of companies that offer that where we're from. So
no, and I think a lot of companies that, you know, if companies watch this, is that they'll see it is that they're phoning you, but they're not. It's not like you're going and then phoning another boy and being like, could you, or girl, could you come and do this? It's actually you that's doing it, so you can specifically tell them exactly how it's going to work, exactly how it should work, I should say, and how it should look and everything like that. So again, that is impressive. But what, you know, you said you do websites and manage people's social media and stuff like that. What would you say is like the hardest part of, okay, a good, let's change this question up. I think a good another way to look at this, right, would be, would you say is like the hardest part of marketing a company?
Strategy, really. I would say when you have that initial call or meeting at the start of the month, the customers obviously got goals and targets they need to hit as a business. So if we're on board with them, or if we're talking to a company that to obviously try and win their business and become a partnership with them, we'll talk about what revenue they look to hit. Is their brand strong enough? Who's their target audience is probably the hardest one, because there's so many businesses out there that think they know who their customers are. And all they do is focus all their attention on this group of people, where there's actually two, three, four, five groups of other people that they're not targeting. And, you know, there's money sitting there to be made if we're targeting the correct audience. So I would say that's probably one of the hardest. The second one is ads. So I would say 70% of our business just now is actually running paid ads campaigns. So it's like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google ads, stuff like that. And the hardest part is being able to forecast something, because like I said at the start of this call, mate, like everything changes all the time. So trends change all the time and stuff like that. And even like software, for example, on Facebook, and laws and advertising laws, it all changes all the time. So the hardest part is to try and keep up with that, and then be able to project like an honest, you know, like leads count, for example. How many leads are we going to get this customer? Mr. Customer, we're going to get you this many leads. And it's so difficult sometimes to try and forecast that and make it happen, just because of what changes around us all the time.
And because, like, I think people will be interested to know as well is that, you know, obviously, as you've said, you're a very like driven, passionate person. So does that mean, say, for example, I'm not saying you do all that, but say, for example, you couldn't hit that target. I take it that really will affect you big time, because you feel like you kind of let them down, even if you've made them tons and tons of money? It's still going to, does that still affect you because you're like, I could have done better? Or are you happy with what you can hit?
Well, I'm never ever happy, let's put it that way. So anything I'm doing, like, I still want more. Like, that's kind of how I am. I'm a numbers man. So it's all about stats, and it's all about like revenue on the back of marketing campaigns and stuff like that. That's what I'm about. So yeah, I mean, I do take it home, if that's what you're asking. Like, it does affect me, but in marketing as well, like, it's not a gamble as such, but when you're doing ads and stuff like that, it doesn't always work. It can't always work. So you've got to fail to then get the stats from what's failed in marketing and use that to target the right people next time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So even if there's a bad month, all you have to do is look at why that's a bad month and dissect it and look at what the reasons actually are, and then make sure that you're not, you know, duplicating that the following month, and you're actually working on the stats and the data that you've collected from doing the paid campaign the month before, which wasn't a success. And that's the best way to sort of build it brick by brick. And it does. It's like, usually when you've got a new client, for example, that wants to invest into paid advertising via social media, for example, it takes about 3 to 4 months before you find that right formula to figure out what actually works for that business. Like, I'll give an example. There's a new company that we brought on like 4 months ago, and I was reading the stats out to my team the other day. So they're a windows and doors company, quite small, based in Inverkeithing, and basically we took over. These guys have got a canvas, like 15 canvassers that go out on the daily, right, and try and win business door to door. They pay our retainer, and then they gave us, I think it was £3,000 over the space of 4 months. And I had a call with a guy on Friday, the owner, and he told me that my advertising campaign had brought them in over £100,000 worth of sales. And the next 2 or 3 months, he's getting rid of his whole canvassing team, and he's putting all the money over to us, because we can, you know, we're producing far more than what humans ever could, because it's all digital now.
Mm-hmm.
But the £2,000 is returned over £100,000. But then I've got just say Mr. Smith down the road, who is a smaller business, and he's spending more than that. He's spending £5,000 a month with me, for example, on advertising, but he's not getting that return back. Do you know what I mean? So it changes between different clients, and it is frustrating because we've got over 80 clients that we work with a month, and every single journey and story is different for each client. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you were saying you were speaking to a member of your team. How many members do you have in your team just now?
Currently, we've got two. We'll be doing a recruitment drive again in the next couple of weeks. So we've got two just now. I've got a brand new team. I had a team last year. Unfortunately, it just didn't kind of work out. So we've got a new team. We've got a developer in-house, and we've got a graphic designer and a social media manager combined. So it's working really, really well. Everyone that I bring in now has got their own skill set and their own talent, and that's what works. So it's like, I'm the ads guy, I've got the developer that does the websites, I've got the graphic designer / social media guy, all the posts and stuff like that. So everything works really, really well, and it's kind of like a conveyor belt. So everyone does their own thing, and then it gets passed along for that customer, and then that's it. So it's a one-stop shop, if you like, rather than outsourcing again to somebody else. Everything is done here for that customer.
Yeah. So you're saying you're doing a recruitment drive. I think something people would love to know, obviously, because everybody, has had a tough time with jobs and things like that. So when they hear that, they'll be like, I'm going to obviously apply. What does it take to apply and work for Simply Social? Does it take the grades kind of thing, or would you rather bring somebody in and train them up, or do you like both? What's maybe like, not like a number, I don't want to say a number, maybe like just a handful of things you would say, like somebody when they come and they're like, Dale, I'd like to work for you, this is what I have to offer. What would you say is like some of the things that you would like to see?
Well, number one is transparency. So that's what I like. I portray myself to be that, and I think it's important for whoever it is that works with me is the same. I think to be sort of humble as well. I don't like people that are overly confident, because if someone's really overly confident, it means they cannot be trained. So they're not willing to be trained. And they might think that they are, but 4 or 5 months down the line, these people can be quite difficult. And it's not their fault. It's just that they're confident in what they do, and they've been doing it for so long. It's just that it doesn't match our business here. They've got to be able to be trained. I would say that university degrees compared to experience, I'll never look over one or the other. It'd be great if there's both, but I come from a humble beginning. I'm not bothered if someone's got a degree over someone I'd rather take someone that's got 4 years experience or a year's more experience than that person that's came out of university with a degree. Because just the type of business we are, the experience is key, because these people need to be able to come in, hit the ground running. And that's exactly what I look for. So
yeah, that proves that you're, you said you're arrogant in that, but that proves you're actually not. It proves like you are humble, because you're not going to take the casual degree. You're going to take somebody off, because you never know the person that doesn't have that degree. You could, give them money, pay them, and then next thing you could change their life. You know what I mean? You never know what that could help, versus obviously you can do the same with a uni person, but somebody that's maybe not had the opportunity to get to college and to get to uni, obviously you're going to help them well. But I think like a lot of people would love to know is that what's one thing like you're scared of every day? Like, I'm not talking like spiders or anything like that, because everybody hates like spiders. They're amazing, but they're like creepy crawlies. But what's one thing that you would say like actually scares you when you wake up every day?
Well, I think again, when I'd set this whole thing up, it was only me to start with. I didn't have all those responsibilities of, let's change that, right? I didn't have when I set this up, it was a personal brand. It was Simply Social Scotland, but it was me, and people knew it was me. Now it's not me. There's a team of people here, and I've got a family. These people have families. They've got rent to pay. They've got mortgages, and they've got a drive, and they want to be here for the future. So I guess waking up in the morning and everything just going wrong, and maybe big clients cancelling or something like that, or even another lockdown. The last lockdown I had absolutely crushed us, just because every kind of business closed. So I would say just workflow coming through scares me. And it's not because I'm greedy. It's not because it's the revenue. It's the revenue that I want to have consistently, so I can take care of my staff and my family. That's it. That's the only thing that kind of scares me on day to day.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to that as well, is that they've maybe had to take jobs they necessarily didn't want to do, but again, they have mortgages, rents, kids, all this sort of stuff. But I think like something that people will be interested in as well is, who did you look up to as a kid? Like non-celebrity wise and celebrity wise, who was, because you would have had to look up to, if you don't mind me saying, people that are driven. You wouldn't have necessarily looked up to somebody that isn't driven. So who was maybe like two people, well, yeah, two people, one person that's classed as non-famous, obviously, and then one person that you could class as famous.
Of course. I would say, well, I've actually got two people that's not famous that I kind of looked up to when I was certainly growing up. In my younger days, it was my granddad. He was no longer with us anymore, but
Sorry,
just such a gentleman. Always installed manners and stuff like that, and he'd just be again, a transparent guy. But I just loved his family, and everything that he'd done was for his family. So looking back, he's definitely made a handprint in my life, basically, and tried to kind of follow the way things that he would do. The other one would be actually like an old boss of mine who doesn't know this, but I would say he was quite an inspiration, because I took a job with him, and it wasn't just a member of staff that treated me like it was my business as well. And I used to sit across from him, the business owner, and I'd hear him on the phone, or he would ask me questions like what I thought about stuff, which was to do with his business, and installed a lot of trust into me quite easily. And because he did that, I trusted him more as well. And it wasn't just a working relationship I had. He looked after me outside of work. We'd go play golf, and yeah, it just came across more of a friend, if you like, which was a bit strange, but it won me over in the way that he did that. He got the best out of me. It wasn't just a boss worker relationship. He really set me up, and I learned other stuff, not just obviously things to do with marketing, but I learned the fundamentals of basics of business, if you like, from behind him. And even days that he would come in stressed, and he would vent his stress to me, but even him venting to me, again, it was me soaking it like a sponge, and I was just listening to it all the time, and I was in amongst it. And he was a bit of an inspiration as well. I still keep in touch with him to this day, but I don't think he wouldn't understand the effect he had on me. It's a weird one to try and describe, but it was just because he was so trusting to me, someone they didn't know from the beginning. But that sparked off something inside me. So
yeah.
Famous wise, I think I said this to you last week on the one that didn't work. It was Conor McGregor. A bit cheesy, but it's not the fact that I particularly like him as a person. But if you look back at Conor McGregor's story, 10 years ago he was on benefits in Ireland, and all he wanted to do was be a fighter, and he was literally scraping the barrel so he could get to the gym and sort of sharpen up his craft, which was obviously fighting. And you look at his journey, and he kind of talks the talk, but he walked the walk as well, and everything he said happened the way he said it was going to happen, which I think's incredible. Like, there's videos of him talking before he was even a superstar, and he's saying, I'm going to be the world champion, and he just keeps saying it and keeps saying it. And obviously the more you say something, the more it registers in your brain, and that's obviously happened for him. And I think the age I was when he kind of came around, it was inspiring to be kind of watching his journey on TV. Do you know what I mean? It was just obviously he was on TV fighting and stuff. So yeah, I would say he's a mega star now. So I think anyone that, even people that don't like him, have to agree that he has a bit of an inspirational story behind him.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and you're 100% right there, to be honest with you, about how if you tell yourself, it's like a funny way to put it is Jeremy Clarkson. Everybody knows Jeremy Clarkson. Everybody has views on him, but I personally really like him. And he said that if you believe something will happen, it will happen. And if you keep telling yourself something will happen, it will happen, because you'll start making the right moves to make it happen. That's why, because somebody asked him about Drive Tribe and stuff like that, and how it's being so successful, and that's what he said. He kept saying that when him, James, and Richard came up with it, they were like, yeah, we're going to start something, but we're going to make sure it's been successful. And they were like, how could you make sure it's going to be successful? And then that's what he said, because we believe it's going to be successful, so it will be. And obviously it's arguably one of the biggest car YouTube lifestyle channels out there, to be honest with you.
But, let me ask you a question, right?
All right, okay.
See, what do you do for a living outside what you do?
College, but I just started a new job as a mentor for people with mental health and suicide issues.
Okay, fantastic. And you obviously have a passion for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I take it you actually enjoy going to your work.
I started in about 2 weeks, but yeah, I've been doing like basic stuff before that, but yeah, I really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. Yeah.
So there's people out there, right? I can tell you right now that, before I go into that, so right now as well, you've also got a passion for radio, podcasts and stuff like that. That's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So I would say, how long have you been doing? It's just started, hasn't it? The podcast.
Yeah.
How long have you thought about doing it?
Probably about 2 years, to be honest. So a long time before it actually started.
What stopped you for 2 years doing this podcast?
Wow. It's not, a lot of people would say money and all that. It's nothing to do with that. It's more along the lines of like confidence, reaching out to people, speaking to people like yourself, which to be honest with you, can be intimidating because you're speaking to people that are successful. So it is a little bit intimidating. So that was it, to be honest with you. Right,
here's a bit of advice, right, and to everybody else that's going to be listening to this, right? It's took you 2 years, and that's fine, and everyone's got their own journey, but it's took you 2 years to set up, to follow what you want in regards to doing this for your own podcast show, right? In 2 years, how many guests, if you had set this up 2 years ago and done what we're doing right now, I mean, Zoom's free and stuff like that. If you had just reached out to people 2 years ago, you probably could have spoke to over 200 people in those 2 years, and your following could be above 5,000 people by this point. But that's not happened, and that's not the journey you took. But you said there that it was a confidence thing, and you were again sharpening up your tools, and you're still not there yet, but a confidence that you'll keep learning, you'll keep self-developing, you'll get better and better and better and better. But what you've started to do is you've started to reach out to people now. And the best bit of advice I could give to anybody is don't be scared to do something or ask people for help or for something. You don't ask, you don't get. And the way it is if someone says no, what's the worst that could happen?
Nothing really. Again, you've tried, yeah.
Yeah. If you message someone, for example, if you messaged me asking me to do a podcast with you, and I'd said no, what's the worst that could happen? That's it. He said no. So it's the same with any business. It's the same with guys that are looking to leave their job, for example, right? They're stuck in a dead-end job and they're scared, and they want to come to me, for example, after this podcast. They'd say, all right, I've always had a passion in marketing, and they go, should I write him an email or should I not? Asking him when his next recruitment drive is. What's the worst that could happen? They're going to email me and I'm going to say, yes, there is a recruitment drive. No, there's not. Or they're going to send their CV to me and I'm either going to like it or I'm not. That's it. It's 2 seconds out of your life. And it's all about luck. It's about approaching someone at the right time or doing something at the right time or leaving your job at the right time and chasing something. Because generally, what is the worst that could happen? My best advice to young people that's still staying at home themselves, still got a roof over their head, is go out and chase whatever you want to chase. Because again, what is the worst that could happen? You could leave your job, try and get another job, that fails. If you've still got a family support and you've still got the foundations around you to support you, nothing's going to happen. All you have to do is try and find another job. But you're hurting yourself more staying in a job or doing something that you're doing just now that you don't enjoy. You're just going to become those people that just do the same thing over and over again. You're going to get older and older and older. You're going to hate your life even more and more and more. And those people that are chasing their stuff are getting to those opportunities before the people that are not. And it's because the people that are not are scared, which is understandable, and you should be scared. But you just try and install in your head what's the worst that can happen, or someone could say no, or something couldn't work out. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like a driving factor for me to be a little bit differently, not so much now because it's taken care of, but before I was very like that. I was in a security job where necessarily, okay, it was good, but I left and then I went to get another one, and it was like extremely hard, but it was completely different. It was 15-hour days. So I mean, it was 5 days a week. So it was completely different, whole another type of lifestyle. And it took a lot out of me. But something I found was I went and got a reasonable car, we should say. And the finance payment was, quite a big bit. So then that actually was a driving factor for me, was the fact that if I didn't work, the car payment wouldn't get paid, and then I couldn't come back. I wouldn't advise anybody to do this, but the car would get repossessed. I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't see, mates, excuse me, girls, or nothing like that. But I think like, yeah, you are right. Yeah. And obviously I appreciate your advice and things like that as well. It means a lot. But
I mean, don't get me. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, everyone's got their own sacrifices to make, and that's why I'm saying I was kind of pushing that more towards a young person that's got people around them and they're still living at home and they don't have commitments that they need to deal with at the end of the month. But I mean, don't get it wrong, I totally understand as well. People have got mortgages, people have got finance, they've got bills to pay at the end of the month, they've got credit rates to try and get on the property ladder in 2-3 years. But that's no strategy just to leave your job. I mean, don't take what I'm saying wrong. I mean, you obviously, if you've got a plan and you want to do something, work your shifts if it's not possible to leave your job, but do self-development at night, or apply for jobs. That's what I'm saying. Or write CVs out, write emails, try and make connections, or whatever. Like, there's no strategy just quitting your job and putting yourself in a situation that's not going to get worse. Like, you've always got to have a strategy around what you do. But it's a moral obligation to chase something which you find is meaningful, and that's what you have to separate the two. And there's no point sitting in a dead-end job for 10 years and moaning about it but doing nothing about it. Do you know what I mean? You've got to chase what's meaningful to you. You've obviously said you're getting a kick when you start a new job helping people that need you. And it's the same with what I do. I help people that need me, and it's something that I enjoy, and it's something that gives me satisfaction, and everyone out there needs to do the same thing. But there has to be a strategy around that, and you have to self-motivate yourself to be able to do it.
Yeah. What a quote as well. Your moral obligation. Wow, that's why I said wow. That definitely took me back there. That's you're very right, to be honest with you. You do kind of have that. Again, you're one in 400 million something chance of being on this planet. So that's like saying, if anybody ever asks me what motivates me every single day, and again, it's the fact that I woke up in the morning, because unfortunately people don't. You could get like the healthiest healthy guy that runs, hundreds of miles a month or some, just for example's sake, something like that, but then doesn't wake up because of that reason. So I think like something people want you to answer the question is, what keeps you motivated every day outside of, like, because obviously like you have a family and stuff, so obviously you have commitments and things like that. Outside of that, what keeps you going every single day?
Okay. Well, again, you've said it not to do it, but genuinely my family motivates me. Like, that is it. That's it. But I think the kind of person I am, or what I've kind of become, is I constantly think. So like, I could be lying in bed at 12, 1, 2, 3, thinking about what my next plan of action is, or what I'm going to try and do, or a new business venture, or this or that. And I'm constantly thinking a strategy around it. Like, I genuinely don't stop. So if I stop, that's when I start getting quite crabby, or I don't know what to do with myself, and I get bored quite easily and stuff like that. And that's because I'm just quite naturally creative in my head, and I have to physically do something about it. So genuinely, what motivates me is taking actions on the thoughts that I have, or the plans that I have. Like, I have to keep going, or I will just hit a plateau. And yeah, that's it, genuinely, because I've been there before, mate, and I felt depressed and stuff like that, because I can't express what I'm trying to do. I've had that before in my life, and it's just now what motivates me is just getting up, doing stuff that I think's right, or doing ideas, or writing things down, or doing strategies. That's what motivates me, to make sure that I'm getting the best out of myself when these ideas pop up.
Yeah, wow. And I think again that'll be really relatable for a lot of people as well, because to be in like the line of business, or to be in the outside the norm, as people call it, you kind of do need to have that factor about you. But I think like a really interesting question I always like asking people is that what's your biggest flaw? And I asked you that last week, and I know what you're going to say, but what is your biggest flaw?
I've been quite trusting. I've been bitten a few times by people in regards to that. So I would say I can be flaw. But I would say my biggest flaw is generally what I've just touched on. Like, I cannot switch off. So sitting sometimes, like, I've got a young boy, I've got a fiance at home. Like, genuinely, sometimes she could be talking to me and I'm looking at her, but I'm not listening to her because I'm thinking about something else. And that's not me being rude. It's just genuinely, like, I cannot switch off sometimes. I would say it's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
Yeah, hang on. So again, like you're saying that there, that it's because it's not as if anybody can be like, oh, it's, you're looking but you're not listening. It's like, no, you're looking because you're looking, and you're not listening because you're thinking, I could do all these moves to make our life so much better and my son's life so much better. That's the thing. That's the difference between a lot of things. It's like you're looking at trying to make their life better because you do have a family, and obviously you have parents and things like that as well. But I think, like, obviously, you said you've got a younger boy in that, and what an interesting question would be, what would you tell a younger Dale if you could sit him down? We'll say, like, have to say a rough age, so maybe we'll say 15, 16-ish, so like reasonably young but still at that teenage kind of years. If he could sit right in front of you right now, what would you tell a young Dale?
A young Dale, I'd see, it's basically say, be a bit more humane, a bit more humble, and don't rush it. So I mean, there've been many mistakes. That's what I'm saying. I've pushed for things that I thought was right, new jobs, left jobs, done this, done that, rushing, trying to get somewhere as quick as possible, and don't rush it. Just soak it all in and just go with the flow.
And I think that's like something that people will be able to relate to as well. It's because, again, they see all this stuff on social media about people, you know, making all this money, living this type of lifestyle, but it's, you're not seeing like the 10 years behind them that they've now built, as you said yourself 7 years, but you've built this, and then they'll obviously see you with your business, but they will obviously, they'll know now, but they wouldn't have known before, like all the struggles you'd went through, all the stuff you'd went through, all the people that had helped you along the way, which again is amazing. But a question I do want to ask you, you've got a picture of New York in your background. What's the inspiration behind that? Or is it genuinely because you just like New York, or is it because of it's like the capital, you know, it's obviously like an amazing place?
No, I mean, I'm laughing. That's not actually my picture. So I'm in a meeting room just now.
All
So
right.
this is my interior. So my interior is full of simply social things. So this is literally just, this is just part of the wall. So no, that's not actually mine, mate. Although I'd love to go to New York.
Yeah, I've never been myself, but it's definitely, you know, something that somewhere I'd like to go. Very inspiring place. And I think that what one thing people want to know is that, you know, and as you're saying, obviously you're quite a motivational person. Like, you're not just like the normal casual normal person. I think that had to have come from somewhere. Like, obviously you've said you had the light switch moment and stuff like that, but it's still, did you have it like, does that come from anybody, if I'm making sense, or is that just like something you developed, or was there somebody there that gave you that motivation on this? Because again, you're quite a motivational person.
Again, just comes back to traumatic experiences I've had as a young boy. I've always had that shell spoke about with the glass. I've just always, don't know, nothing gets through me, and I can read people like a book, and I don't know, nothing's going to get in my way, and that's it. It's just, I can't be tamed. I feel like that's just me, and that's just because of the way things have played out in my life, and that's what's installed in my personality now. If I have something in my head, that's what I'm going to try and do, and there's no two ways about it. That's what I'm going to try and do. Same with, you know, as a people's person, like I'm honest, I'm open and honest with everybody. Again, it's a curse sometimes to do. Like, if there's something I don't like, I will say that I don't like that. If something's great, I will say it's great. And yeah, I genuinely, I don't know. I've always got a soft spot for people that have been through struggles, or have had bad things happen to them, which isn't within their control. It's because of someone else. But that's no excuse. You can't just live with that your whole life and say, oh, this happened to me when I was younger, so everyone, you know, has to feel sorry for me or do this. Like, you can't get away with that. You can only get away with that for so long. And then you've got to do something about that. And it's your responsibility, again, your moral obligation to do something about that and make something of yourself. Because no one else is going to do it for you. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So no one else is going to make you quit your job and chase something you want to chase. No one else is going to help you get a bigger salary at the end of the month. No one else is going to help you get that promotion. Nobody else is going to help you do anything. Like, everything is on you. It's about what you put in that you'll get back, and that's it.
A couple of last questions is, because I'm sure you're a busy man, is you said you can read people like a book, and that's interesting because I you know, as many people will have known, I was a doorman from 18 till about 2 years ago, so quite a while, and I actually worked in Dunfermline in Lorenzo's nightclub, which I don't know if you know that place, but worked in there, and I've personally figured out that being able to read, I had to learn to read people like a book, learn to know what they were going to do or what they were going to say before they said it, or it could cause obviously harm and things like that. Would you say it's a gift and a curse, or would you say that it's actually a good thing? Because some people say it's a good thing, but it has its bad sides. Or would you say it's actually all good?
Yeah, no, I do think it's a good and bad thing, I would say. Again, just being the kind of character I am, I'm not going to bullshit someone. So if I'm seeing through somebody, and I'm probably not going to give that person time of day if I think there's a negative about them. If it comes to business, I'm talking about, not personally.
Yeah.
But personally as well. I mean, it's got me into trouble a few times where, you know, I've not been able to let things go, or it's definitely a good thing, but it can be bad as well. There's got to be a happy medium, and that's something that I've worked hard on for years, is try to find that happy medium and try and be level-headed, basically. But reading people is especially a good thing in business, because, like I say, I've been stung before, and I've learned from that, and I can honestly, the loads of experiences I've had in my life, which has led me to where I am now, and bulletproof, baby.
Good, the best way to be. And the last question I'll always like to ask people is that the casual interview question that everybody gets asked, you probably ask people yourself, is that where do you see yourself in like 5 to 10 years? And then on top of that, where do you see, because we know where you're going to see Simply Social. So where, obviously you've said all the pillars, but where would you really like to see that? And then where would you like to see yourself? Because obviously there is two sides to yourself, which again is really impressive. But where would you like to see both of them?
Yeah, I've loved England's my next priority, 100%. There's more businesses in Manchester than the whole of Scotland, so I want to get back down there, get the office set up again down there, and attack that. But me personally, in the next 5-10 years, I want to have everything set up. I want to just be, managing my team, delegating and training and helping people. But another thing that I'm looking to try and do going forward is I've launched it recently. It's the Simply Social Academy, which is a separate arm to my business just now. And that's trying to help other people that want to get into marketing or they don't know certain skill sets within marketing, and I'm teaching them how to do it. And especially I've kind of spoke about before, like I'm not in a position right now where I can do it, but I'd love to set something up, like a charity or something that allows people that have maybe had traumatic experiences when they're younger or something like that, opportunities to come in and learn and have chats with these guys and try and direct them and places that they want to try and get to and hold their hands slightly and teach. Like I want to be able to teach, basically. I want to be able to pass on what I know and experiences and help others.
Wow. Well, I again, you said that about the academy, but I'd love to like just find out that little bit about that. What do you do in the academy? What's the, what do people expect that come to it?
Yeah, so basically the academy right now it is more corporate, but that's what I'm saying. It will change going forward, but not the charity side, but from a business point of view, the academy is set up for people that are maybe entry level sole traders or freelancers that are maybe good in one thing, but don't know how to do Facebook ads, or they don't know how to do proper strategy, or don't have sales experience. They don't know how to approach clients. They don't know how to win contracts. That's all set up to be cost effective, and we're not ripping anybody off. So it's supposed to be our gift back and charging something quite small to teach these guys proper skill and whatever it is they want to learn, so they can go out and better themselves again and better their business. I mean, I've actually taught competitors of mine how to do Facebook ads, and that makes no sense from a business point of view, because I'd be competing with them if they start doing that. But I've done it anyway because it's helping others, and again, I've charged a fraction of the cost of what an actual trainer would do. But like I say, I do inspire. Like I've got ideas. I want to maybe go to guys that have maybe left school and then set something up. So there's guys that left school, they know they want to get into digital or something like that. They're good on a computer, or they're good at drawing, or they're artistic, whatever. I want to be able to help these people that have had, not the best start in life, and I want to be able to guide them and offer the service for free and try and set them up in a career that they'd be good for. But that's all in due time. Obviously, very very busy just now, but that is at the back of my mind to do something like that.
Yeah, and again, that proves like what a humble person you are, because as you said, that's like Facebook going to somebody and saying, I'll create a social media for you type thing. I'll help you with that. But you actually went out, which again is very, very admirable. And my last question I have to say is that, with what you've done and setting up a business, again, it's really impressive, and growing it to what it is. And you have huge aims, as in you aim for the sky. But as I tell everybody, aim for the sky because it's there to be aimed for. It's not there to, to be jealous of, and that's such a horrible word, and it's there to be like literally you need to aim for it. But you've probably dealt with a lot of negativity from people, because I tend to find when I speak to people that are in business or are in just different types of roles, they have dealt with negativity quite a lot from various, not necessarily, most of the time it's not from the family, it's from people out with that type of stuff, like people that necessarily don't know them. How have you dealt?
Bulletproof.
I like that answer. I like that answer. That's probably like, again, it is really impressive that you don't let it get to you, because again, there's a lot of people that do let it get to you, and it unfortunately stops them doing what they want to do. But again, you don't let it get to you whatsoever, which again is impressive.
Who cares? At the end of the day, if someone's getting you down, you're doing something right, and you're rustling feathers, and that's it. You're going to be laughing, and compared to them in 5 years' time, if they're just jealous and putting you down because you're just doing something good for yourself, like, who cares? Bulletproof.
Good. And again, I want to thank your time the second time because the first time didn't work. But is there anything you would like to say to anybody just now before we finish? Like somebody that's watching this, is there anything you would like to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, again, just going back to the glass analogy, there's going to be thousands of people out in the world right now that have, like I say, had a bad start. And let's just put it this way, like if I can do it, I mean, I'm not claiming I'm so successful. I've just been lucky in the past year and I've got this business that's thriving, and that's fine. It's just a business. Like life goes on, work's work and family's family. But if there's people out there that, you know, have not had the best start and they're struggling or whatever, and they know they want to kind of do something, they want to get in a space, like just go for it. And my door's always open, like my number's on my Facebook. So if there's someone out there that just wants advice or anything like that, how to kind of push towards whatever career they want to do, or my door or my phone's always on. So just phone and speak to me. I'm a transparent guy from Fife. Anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it, sorry. So just push on to do what you want to do and don't listen to anybody else.
Yeah, and on that note, we will end that there. And again, I want to thank you for your time. And don't worry, guys, you will be seeing this episode 100%. There's no reason why, according to everybody, there's no reason why you shouldn't. But yeah, just before we go, what's all of your, so obviously I know what they are, but what's all of your social media for people that they can follow you at and figure out what you're doing and everything like that?
Yeah, so the best one to catch on what we're actually doing all the time is actually Facebook. So it's just Simply Social Scotland on Facebook. Website's www.simplesocialscotland.co.uk, and we're on Instagram as well. You'll find us if you just type our name in. That's it. You'll keep up to date with what we do on there, mate.
Yeah, and then I want to because I want to thank you again for coming on again for the second time. And don't worry, it will work this time. I really appreciate your time, and yeah. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you.
Great, mate. All right. Good luck.
Thank you very much.